1.9 billion euros. The staggering sum at the very center of one of Germany's largest corporate collapses. A celebrated payments company reported this fortune as genuine cash reserves, sitting safely in trustee accounts in the Philippines. But when challenged, it turned out to be completely fictitious, with forged documents from banks that had never held the money. Wirecard said it was sitting safely in trustee accounts in the Philippines. This represented roughly half their reported cash and about a quarter of the entire balance sheet. But then everything changed when the auditors finally demanded proof of it all after years of growing questions from outsiders. Then the auditors asked to see it. The banks said the documents were forged. The money never existed at all. One journalist had warned them for years about the numbers that never added up. Germany chose to investigate him instead of digging into the company. But how had this mechanism gone undetected for 5 years? 1999. A small payments startup is born near Munich in the suburbs of Aschheim. The dot-com bust nearly kills it outright. The company was struggling badly after the bubble burst, with its future looking bleak, until new leadership arrived. 2002. Markus Braun steps in. Austrian technologist with a PhD, born in Vienna in 1969. He takes the reins of a reeling company after the dot-com disaster. He sees potential where others see failure and begins steering it toward ambitious global expansion, especially across Asia. Braun pushes hard into Asia. The third-party acquiring business becomes the secret rocket fuel for their growth. It accounts for a larger and larger share of the impressive profits they report each year to investors and analysts. The model relied on local partners in jurisdictions where licenses were hard to obtain. 2005, they reached the stock market through a backdoor reverse takeover of a listed shell. This clever maneuver lets the company list its shares without going through the usual rigorous IPO process. That would have meant more scrutiny on their books and operations from the start. The numbers start to dazzle investors and analysts alike. Profits pour in from that mysterious Asian partner business. The consistent growth makes Wirecard the darling of the German stock market. Braun himself becomes a paper billionaire with his 7% stake. September 2018. Wirecard joins the DAX 30. It knocks out Commerzbank, a bank founded in 1870. This moment symbolizes the triumph of new German fintech over traditional banking. It becomes a point of national pride for the country's modern economy. But from 2015, a Financial Times reporter named Dan McCrum keeps digging into their numbers with persistence. He suspects that the Asian operations may not be all they seem. The reported figures seem too good to be true. He publishes the House of Wirecard series that raises serious questions about the third-party acquiring model. Short sellers pile in, betting against the stock. Wirecard calls it all market manipulation and mounts a fierce defense against these attacks on their reputation and soaring share price. Then, a whistleblower inside the Singapore office hands over internal files. These documents seem to show serious irregularities, including possible round-tripping. But would the authorities listen to these warnings or dismiss them as baseless noise from those shorting the stock?
These documents do not add up at all. I am certain something is very wrong here with the accounts and the business practices.
February 2019. The FT publishes the Singapore evidence. Round-tripping, forged contracts, shares tumble sharply on the news. So what does BaFin do in response to protect the national fintech champion? They ban short selling for 2 months to stabilize the share price. And they file criminal complaints against the FT journalists themselves for suspected market manipulation. It was an extraordinary move that defended the company rather than investigating the mounting red flags in its Asian business. The Watchdog protected the company. It was supposed to watch over carefully. National pride had its champion in Wirecard. As a symbol of German fintech success, this seemed to blind everyone to the risks that were building up unseen all along in those hard-to-verify foreign accounts. Wirecard orders a special audit by KPMG to clear its name once and for all. This was meant to be the definitive report that would end all the doubts. It would quiet the critics for good and restore full confidence in the booming numbers. April 2020. KPMG says it could not verify the third-party business or the cash. The shares keep falling as doubts grew stronger than ever before, despite the earlier ban on short selling. The clearing exercise had backfired completely on the company. You are watching a miracle built on numbers no one could touch or verify properly. The profits from Asia looked amazing on paper, yet they remained strangely out of reach for any real inspection by outsiders or auditors. The fake part was always just over the horizon in distant jurisdictions. June 18, 2020. EY refuses to sign the accounts. They failed to confirm the cash. The 1.9 billion euros cannot be confirmed despite repeated attempts and demands for proof. This marked the beginning of the end for the DAX-listed giant. 2 Philippine banks confirmed the documents are spurious and were in fact forged. They had never even heard of Wirecard or held any such accounts for them at BDO or BPI. This was the final proof that the money was never real at all and the numbers had been fabricated. Here is how the machine was supposed to work. Card payments processed through local partners in countries without direct licenses. The revenue booked at home in Germany. Customers pay with cards in countries where Wirecard has no license to operate directly. Local partners are supposed to process the payments on their behalf in those jurisdictions across Asia and beyond. This third-party acquiring model drove the majority of the reported profit growth in later years. The partner processes it. Wirecard books the revenue as its own. The partner's share is supposedly held in trustee accounts for safety until it can be transferred properly back to Munich. On paper, this created booming profits and a huge cash cushion that impressed everyone. But investigators later found much of the business was round-tripped. Money circling to create fake revenue that looked real on the books. The 1.9 billion euros was simply never there, despite all the confirmation letters that later proved to be forged from start to finish. The entire profit engine had been built on paper. 2 banks said it was forged from start to finish. This meant the foundation of their success was rotten. The numbers had been inflated for years, while the real German business was overshadowed by the phantom Asian pipeline. 19 June. Braun resigns. Marsalek is suspended, then vanishes onto a private jet to an unknown destination from a small airfield near Vienna. He has never been seen again, despite an international arrest warrant being issued soon after the collapse. The COO who ran the Asian operations was gone. 22 June. Wirecard itself admits the 1.9 billion euro probably does not exist at all, according to its own public statement. This confirmed the worst fears of investors, who had trusted the reported figures for so long. They watched the DAX member implode. 23 June. Braun is arrested. The first DAX company in history files for insolvency, 4 days after EY refused to sign. This left 3.2 billion euros in debt for lenders. Within a week, the fintech champion that displaced an 1870 bank was gone. The share price that touched 191 euros fell to almost nothing. A collapse of 99%. 3.2 billion euros in debt left behind for others to sort out. The company that joined the DAX for less than 2 years filed for insolvency. A parliamentary inquiry later condemned the regulator and auditors for their failures. BaFin's president resigned amid the fallout. EY faced sanctions and investigations. Markus Braun denies any wrongdoing and stands trial in Munich. Jan Marsalek has never been found. The system that should have caught the fiction had instead defended it. You're the CEO, staring at perfect numbers that have made you a paper billionaire. The Asian profits keep rising year after year. The cash pile looks enormous on the balance sheet. What do you tell yourself when whispers of doubt appear in the press? Do you investigate the trustee accounts deeply, or keep believing the reports? The 1.9 billion euros was never there to begin with, according to the banks and the forged papers. The system that should have caught it chose not to look closely enough at the evidence from distant Asia. This left lenders and investors with massive losses after the first DAX insolvency in history, and many unanswered questions still. Double down or come clean? Would you have caught it? Say so below. How did Madoff hide $65 billion?